and welcome to another exciting episode of The Energy That Surrounds Us. I'm your host, Michael, and tonight's guest, you all are in for a huge treat. I had the blessing and privilege to sit down and talk with her some at the 2025 Full Disclosure Now conference, and so we had so many fun talks, and it was a rare moment that I actually had time to chat with people. As I'm sure Anne remembers, I was running around a lot, so it was a pleasure, and I am so blessed to be able to have her on the show tonight. You all are in for a huge treat. She has so many experiences to share with us, and so I am going to stop gabbing about her, and I'm going to turn it over to her to let her introduce herself to you all. And so I am proud and honored and blessed to introduce the one, the only, talented, multifaceted Anne-Marie Morales.
Oh my goodness, what an intro. I'm going to have to send you payment for that, man. Thank you, Michael. It's such an honor to be on your podcast. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad we were able to make it happen. And
yeah. And I really loved that intro. It was awesome. What a great intro.
My cousin knocked me out of the park with that one, and I was like, oh, it was so cool how he's able to do that.
Yeah, pretty cool. So, yeah, we got to meet each other at this conference, and we even were at the beach that Saturday morning, hanging out a bit in the sunshine. That was a lot of fun, too.
That was the Day of Being 5.0 event.
Yep, that was a lot of fun.
So for those who aren't familiar and know you, which I'm not sure how, but, you know, it happens. Some people slip through the cracks. Why don't you introduce yourself and what all you do?
Well, thanks. My name's Anne-Marie Morales, and I began like this part of my life in the disclosure and secret government projects community, I guess, about 7 years ago. And my awakening all started with me learning Reiki, and from Reiki, then I began a new spiritual practice. I began to channel. But before I got into all of that, who I am right now, I'm actually a certified transpersonal and clinical hypnotherapist. So I was trained at the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy. And that's like one of my main jobs is to be a hypnotherapist. That also means I do regressions. That also means I do past life regressions. I also have my own hypnotic modality called a starseed special, where I take star seeds to meet their aspects. So we actually travel to a beautiful realm, and I hook people up, or they get hooked up with their Pleiadians or Arcturians or Blue Avian aspects or Zeta Reticulan aspects or Anunnaki aspects or Syrian aspects. So that's also a lot of fascinating and fun.
That's amazing. And was this all stuff that you learned later in life, or did you have some of this coming through when you were younger growing up?
I think I was always an intuitive, and I think I was always in connection with spirit. I'm also a channel. I also channel really high vibrational beings. I channel light language, which is many, many things. It's very healing and cleansing, and I believe it's like, star languages. I also am an intuitive energy healer, so I read people's energy, and I'm able to like figure out if there's dense energy in what chakra, or if it's from a past life, or if it's from another, from an attached energy, whether it be an implant, how we have implants sometimes in our auric field or in our bodies, or even full-blown attachments, whether they be disincarnate souls or really dense, low vibrational attachments. So I do a lot of that. Hi, Dorota. Hello, Polly. Woo Riders. I love that.
That is really cool.
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff.
I know. I was like,
yeah.
I was writing it up, and I was like, I don't know that we could even cover half of this in an hour.
It's a lot. But yeah, I love doing it. It's very fulfilling and beautiful work. So
it is, and normally I kind of let the show go, but we were talking in full transparency to the audience. We were talking about, there was one topic that you wanted to make sure we got to, so I thought, now might be a good time to shift to that, and that was, you were wanting to talk about your paranormal experiences when you were younger, and try and get some insight into those. So I'll let you take it away.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was really excited to learn that you had a show also about the paranormal, because that's kind of what I grew out of. I was raised a very Catholic, and in the Catholic Church, there's a lot of woo-woo that goes on, that you're taught that it's okay, especially like miracles, or even the demonic. My father was always, I wouldn't say he was intrigued, but it was a part of our conversations. Like, the devil is real, these kind of things. So I grew up kind of being very interested in that. I don't know if you remember the Amityville Horror, the book that came out. Okay. I mean, that book was like the beginning of my paranormal interest. I was fascinated with it. And as I grew up, that was like when I was in grade school. When I was in 9th grade, I actually my family moved to the island of Malta in the Mediterranean. And I didn't know anybody, but there was one of my dad's cousin's daughter. She was a full-blown medium, full-blown clairvoyant, and she was really into the occult. And she and I had made a makeshift Ouija board. I was always fascinated. We would sit there with our rosaries. We would say the rosary, and then we would do a Ouija board session. So that's like what we did at the age of, I was like 13 or 14. And that's like where all the paranormal stuff started for me.
And that's quite interesting. So, do you feel like the mediumship is transferred because of your family, or do you think you just were exposed around your family, and so it kind of just grew and you were like just encouraged to, where most people tend to shy away from?
Right. Well, I don't think there are any mistakes, right? I think everything is there for a reason. And I do believe that my extrasensory gifts came from my father's side of the family. I believe my father had gifts that he never let on to because he was, a World War II vet and, quite stoic and quite religious actually. But he knew how to handle the demons. He used to go preach in a prison nearby, and he shared with me one time that the prisoners who had possessions would like attack their cages when he would walk by. They would expose themselves, they would spit at him, and he did this thing with his hands. He would go 3-3-1, 3 persons, one God, kind of like bringing up the Trinity. And when he would do that, they would cower. They would run and cower. So my dad was totally tapped in. He just never really spoke a lot about it. But I do believe that was, from my dad's side of the family, which this one particular cousin was. And that summer, we did about 3 or 4 Ouija board sessions, but she would go into full trance. So she would go into full trance, and I would have to talk with this spirit who was apparently somebody from like the local graveyard, that we actually went and found this guy's grave. I remember his name. And he told me that I was in control, that I would command when the spirit would come and go out of my cousin's body. It was really weird. Like, it was really creepy. And he said to me, "You're not allowed to tell her what we talk about." And I was like, okay, sure. And then she comes out of it, and I'm like, "You won't believe what happened." And I was about to tell her what happened, and he pops right back in, and he's like, I told you, you're not allowed to tell her what to do, what happened. And I was like, oh, okay. So that kind of like freaked me out a little bit. My grandmother, my mother's mother, figured out that I was doing something naughty against the teachings of the Catholic Church. So she forbade me to go see them. My mom forbade me to go and do that anymore, and promptly threw me to the Catholic Church and into the youth group of the Catholic Church. And she wanted me to talk to the priest. And what's really funny is the priest said to me, "So what did the spirits tell you?" So like the priest was really interested in what the spirits told me. So that was kind of funny. But I kind of felt like I had like a little attached energy, and that lasted with me for a little while, actually. When I finally left Malta, and this was months later, maybe about 10 or 12 months later, we moved back to the States, and I was having like the intuition, like I'd know when the phone was going to ring, I'd know who was calling. So I would have this kind of like sixth sense about things. And, my family was very, very religious. My dad was very religious, and we would watch the 700 Club. It's still on the air, apparently. Are you familiar with that?
I am.
So there was the one fellow named Ben Kinslow, and it was the summer, and I'm dating myself here, but it was the summer that E.T., the original E.T. movie, and Poltergeist came out. And you remember Poltergeist? I mean, that was a really big, spooky paranormal movie. And basically what he ended up doing was doing like a review of these movies. And he did an exorcism right then and there. And he's like, "Okay, everybody, let's pray for these people." And they're doing, there's only one God, blah, blah, blah. Well, I started to pray because these things were kind of freaking me out a little bit. And he basically said, "And may these demons or whatever be gone now." And when he said now, like my body slumped, and I felt a tingling from head to toe, like something lifting off of me. And I was crying uncontrollably. And I think, that attachment left me at that point. But that's always a really very vivid and real memory for me. So
what changes did you notice when the attachment left? Like, were you still as in tune, or did your emotions like kind of alter unexpectedly?
So when I look back on that time, it wasn't anything positive. I mean, I don't want to speak like that. It was not an energy that was of the light. I can tell you that much. It was an energy that was a darker presence with me. So I felt lighter. I felt better. I was able to be a regular old 14-year-old, 13-year-old. And I continued, going to Catholic school and being a high schooler. And then I think the first time that I actually saw a spirit was, I was even younger, and I was in Malta again. So it was maybe about 7 or 8. And you've heard of like the legends of like the women in white, like a woman in white. And I ended up seeing a woman in white at a garden. She was saying, hello, hello. And she was like kind of off in the bushes. It was really weird. And I was with a younger girl, a much younger girl, like a 4 or 5-year-old girl. And we just kind of hightailed it out of there. But the paranormal was always there, because then the book came out, The Amityville Horror. Like I said, my father was always very aware of that. And I didn't quite encounter paranormal stuff until I actually got married when I was in my 20s. And we had moved into a house, my ex-husband and I. And I remember having sleep paralysis. And I would open my eyes and I would see like demonic faces, like in the fuzz. Do you remember how televisions used to have that dark fuzz? Like,
yes, actually, I
do. Before we had cable and you had to actually click over to get, this is a long, like I'm really dating myself. But
it was like the when the channels were done and before the white snow.
Yeah.
There would be like this monogram that says stand by, and then this dark, like,
it's the white snow, it's the fuzz, it's the, when it didn't have any sound. So I would be waking up and I would see demonic faces. I'd be in sleep paralysis. I'd open my eyes, and you know how your eyes are dark, and I would just see these faces come in and out. And when I'd open my eyes, I would hear these dogs barking somewhere in the neighborhood. And this is in the dead of night. I used to call them the hounds. So it was really spooky. And this happened to me for a while. My youngest son, my oldest son, actually would be woken up with night terrors. So he's 34 now, and he says, oh yeah, I remember that. I was grabbed by my legs. And I'm like, you were like 13 months old. He goes, no, I was older than. I was like, no, you were a baby. But he still remembers that. So I went through a period of what later I would find out was called demonic oppression. So I would have been, and I was like, things would disappear from my house and they would reappear. And it was interesting because I really felt for a very, very long time that there was this like, oh, we got to get Anne-Marie back. We got to keep her down. So this went on for a long time, a very, very long time.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was wondering if this is all tied to what you were doing on Malta, and then you go and said Yeah, they were wanting me back, and so I was like, man, you
Yeah.
answered my question right before I got to ask the question. And
Mhm.
I am, though, a little bit curious around, did you feel when you first were starting to like do all of this in Malta and be with, the family and everything, did you
Mhm.
feel drawn to start, checking into these things and maybe doing Ouija boards? Or was that something that just like you were like, oh, yeah, we need to do Ouija board? And it was like there was no drawing. It's just like
Mm.
your mind just said, do this, and you just did it.
Well, I had never heard of one before my cousin told me about it, because it really wasn't something that we talked about in our family, in the States. It was just me and my parents, and we were so religious. That's the first time I encountered a Ouija board, and that's the first and last time that I ever delved into that type of divination. Um, I have always, since that experience, there's just something about that modality that I'm just like, you know what? Leave that be. There are other ways to communicate with spirit, because when you're using that, if you don't have enough discernment, if you don't really understand, you see, that game has been marketed, that has been marketed as a game, and it's been aimed at children for a very particular reason, because it is a portal to the unknown. It's as if, the way that I refer to it, it's as if that you're behind a screen window, and outside of the screen window is teeming with bugs and roaches and mosquitoes and flies. And you think it's safe because it's dark outside to open the screen. Okay? You really don't know unless you really have a handle on your own discernment and spirituality and understand protection and what it means. I mean, I just say stay away from that. Yeah, I never touched it again after that, and I don't recommend it at all.
I don't recommend it either, and for the very same reason, it's not a game like
Mm-hmm.
they predicted it and marketed it as. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. I think they were purposefully, drawing
Oh, of
people
course.
to do that. And that's where I was trying to figure out if it was like whatever had attached to you in Malta was guiding you to the Ouija board, as to quote, let
Mm-hmm.
his friends in, or
Mm-hmm.
if you were already aware. And I was like, okay, maybe it wasn't his influence.
Mm-hmm. No, I was not aware of it before, but I definitely, when you do something like that, it's, you leave an imprint. You send up a little signal or a flag or something like that. Once they've got their eye on you, then they've got their eye on you. So this is all free will. You understand, we are not victims. So we operate in a realm of free will. So even at my 14 or 13-year-old self, I operated under free will. Okay. So I take that full responsibility. Um, but for years, a good 30 years, really not until, I don't know, maybe about 8 years ago, did I really free myself from any super dark stuff. I mean, this is tricky. We're in a spiritual, I hate to say this, but a spiritual battle for each and every soul. We're in a battle because we're ascending. I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of ascension, how we're moving into another evolutionary cycle of humanity and of human consciousness. We're evolving. And part of that evolving is returning to the knowledge of our true nature, of our true connection with the divine, that we hold the light of all that is, that we are all Christed beings. And so there is a whole realm of entities that have had their way on this planet for far too long, and they don't want to let us go. And so when somebody like myself comes in, not only connected, but with a mission of becoming who I am today, they don't want me to get there. They don't want people like us to get there. So they're going to try, and they're going to keep trying. But that's okay, because I now know who I am. And so I'm very, very, very secure in my spiritual practice, my connection with all that is. And once your frequency goes up, really their influence on you becomes near to impossible. So that's the good news about all of this.
I agree. And one of the aspects that I think is you kind of hinted at, but kind of skated by, is the powers that be that have been running amok, so to speak, on the planet unchecked, have been able to get away with it because they feed on fear. So they keep us in fear of them. So therefore we keep feeding them.
Right.
And as we grow and learn who we are, their ability to make us go into a state of fear gets weaker and weaker. And that's where to me, that's the true, like, almost first step of ascension, is to realize we don't have anything to be afraid of because of, who we are. We were born into a system where we can learn, adapt, grow, and overcome, but we forget that. And we think of ourselves as, oh, we're just, here, and I'm at the mercy of this because of this and this. And we forget we're not at the mercy of anybody. We're only at the mercy of ourselves. And as we remember who we are, it's like you start to see the world in a new, not meaning a pun here, but a new light.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I had various experiences over the course of, when raising my children and moving to New York. And my kids and I, we used to watch all the paranormal shows. We used to love watching Paranormal State. And do you remember that, Paranormal State?
I do. Isn't that the one with Ryan and
Ryan Buell? Yeah. Yeah. We went to go see them in New York one time. I got to meet them all. And what else? We also used to watch Supernatural, that show on TV. Yeah. And I used to remember, like, my dogs used to bark. We would watch Supernatural. My dogs would bark. They would look up the stairs. We had a house on Staten Island where my younger son he saw angels as a baby. And then when we were older, and there was a lot of chaos in my marriage, and that attracted a lot of negative energy as well. And he ended up seeing in a reflection from my bed, kind of like a Baphomet figure crossing through my bedroom. And he told me that. He's like, "Mommy, I saw a guy, he had goat legs. He had goat legs and he had horns." And I was like, and I was going through a lot at that house. I was in a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. I remember feeling watched one time so badly when I was taking a shower one time at night. That feeling was just so awful. Really, it was really, really, really awful. So we had left that, we sold that house on Staten Island. We moved upstate into another house, and things quieted down. And then when my marriage ended, and I had time to kind of like focus on me, because I wanted to figure out why I was always touched by this darkness, and things would happen, and it wasn't pleasant. It really wasn't pleasant at all. There were many times where I felt attachments to me, where I would do things and feel things that were just not right. And so I explored this paranormal side. I got involved with a ghost hunting group. That was really where I was able to start talking about all these weird, dark things that were happening to me. And I wouldn't be kicked out of a priest's office or looked at by my church friends like I was crazy. And that was really good. I got to meet a lot of people. But I also started to learn about esoteric things. I actually met, do you know Ed and Lorraine Warren?
I know of them, and I know their grandson, but I never had the privilege to meet them personally.
I never got to meet Lorraine Warren, but I met her daughter and her son-in-law, Judy Spera and Tony Spera. We did ghost things together in conventions and paranormal conventions together, and with my former ghost group. And I knew that I enjoyed it. And actually, my job in the ghost group was to connect with the building and like receive messages from the building. And I actually, at one investigation, started to do drawings of spirits. And my friend who actually taught me Reiki and was my Reiki Master, she was a medium as well. And we were working in her house and doing because she was in a house that was used on the Underground Railroad in New York to get slaves up into Canada, into free territory. And I showed her the drawings, and she's like, that's who I see in my house. Like, there were two that my drawings were so accurate. So I realized even back then I was already doing like a channeling work and like kind of communication and these intuitive downloads that I do now. And so that was kind of fun. We would go to Gettysburg. We would go to all places in the Northeast. In the Berkshire Mountains, we went there one time. There was a haunted place we went to. So that was nice. It was interesting. And during this whole time, I was teaching. So I became an art teacher. And I had a couple students that would talk to me about the paranormal. One student in particular in the Bronx with blue eyes. And I find that people with blue eyes tend to see, have a lot of psychic vision. And this boy in lunchroom, the kids would always pick on him because he was so quiet. He could never look anybody in the face. And they were like teasing him. And I was like, what's going on over here? And they're like, he's talking about ghosts again. And I went, bing, like my ears perked up. I was like, ghosts? You talking about ghosts? So I pulled him aside. I was like, look, don't talk to them about ghosts. They don't understand. Talk to me. I understand about ghosts. So he went in to tell me about how these ghosts would follow him all around and they would mess with the teacher. And he could never learn and he could never study because every time he looked up, there were these two ghosts that were playing and making fun of the teacher. And it would bother him so much. And so I said to him, well, do they bother you at home? And he said, no, there's a little white lady at home and she sends them away. And he was like, Miss, please help me, because I can't stand it. I'm not learning anything anymore. And so we had gone away for the weekend, it was Friday, then came back. And he's like, Miss, what can I do? Actually, he said that to me before. And I said, ask the lady to protect you here too, at school. And so then we went away for the weekend. And when he came back, he didn't come in on Monday. Then I saw him on that Tuesday. And he told me, he's like, Miss, I asked her. And she said yes. And his eyes were so bright. And he had this big, beautiful smile. And apparently they never bugged him again. And so he was able to study and be free of this at school.
Yeah, and that's such a gift that you were there and in the space to give him an outlet and be, open. And, and it's interesting that you were like, ask the woman in white to protect you here, because admittedly, I was like thinking, oh, what could you do? Maybe we need to remove this or that. And I will admit, the simplest solution that you came up with was probably like not even on my radar. And I love that, because it's like everybody has their own ways and, everybody has what works. But in talking with others, you learn, maybe there's easier ways. And
well, I have to admit that just was one of those things that dropped into my head. It's not like I did research on it. I mean, I was literally put on the spot, and I'm thinking, God, give me the intuition. What can I tell? How can I help this poor kid? And that's what came through. So again, even though I didn't know what it was, channeling or intuition, I did believe that I received messages, from spirit, even during this time. So yeah, I can't really take claim for that. I think that was really a download that I got, and it worked. It worked for him.
Well, that's how you can claim it, though, is you were open to receiving the information and open to sharing it, because most people, I think, would get that download and be like, I don't know if, I'm comfortable going that extra step and going, because what if it goes wrong? And
well, to be honest, if the principal found out about that conversation, I think I'd be promptly fired, because it wasn't it wasn't a union job. It was at a charter school in the Bronx. So anyway, good thing nobody else found out about that. But
until now, and statute of limitations.
It's all over now. Too late now. Can't fire me now. But even when I was back working, I was working in a regular, state job, not in a charter school. I did have another student who told me that he communicated with his cat, and I encouraged him. I said, keep that up. Keep talking. That's a very important skill. And I had one student who told me that. And then I had another student who was in first grade, so a young kid in the special ed class, who was a mixed, a class with regular students and with special needs kids. And he would speak to me in light language. And he would say his light language, and I would respond in my light language. And the kids would look at us like, what are you guys doing? I was like, don't worry about us. We're just chit-chatting away. And he would talk to me in his light language. And I thought that was just the most beautiful, beautiful thing. It was just great to be able to see these budding star seeds. And, you know, I was the art teacher, so I would talk about aliens. I would like, let's draw the moon, let's draw spaceships. And there was one boy that was always like, he just like would rather die than be in an art class. And then one time I started drawing different alien races for him. I was like, and this is what a Pleiadian looks like. And this is what an Arcturian looks like. And this is what a reptilian looks like. And this is what this, and from then on, he was like, Miss, look what I drew. Miss, I did this. And he was in 5th grade. So he was like one of the older kids. And I just broke through something, and we had a bond then from then on. And so I was always the wacky one, and I didn't care. I loved it. So
I'm curious, was the light language something that you just innately knew and knew how to use, or did it come, someone say, okay, we're going to download this into you, and you're like, well, what is it? And they said, oh, it's the light language. And so you're like, oh, okay.
No, I was never activated like that at all. It was very spontaneous. When I became awake and aware, and I started on my spiritual path, my spiritual group was led by a woman who was a channeler, and we study A Course in Miracles, which is it's a channeled text. Jesus is the voice of a channeled text. So, I mean, I love Jesus. I was in the Catholic Church for most of my adult life, and not just a practicing Catholic. I actually was a cantor in the Catholic Church. I was a professional singer for the church, and I actually cantored in New York City at St. Patrick's Cathedral on the altar for thousands of people. I was the principal cantor. So, I mean, this was like my huge life, and I couldn't leave Jesus. Like, it was really hard for me to do that. When my relationship with the church was falling apart, it's like this other Jesus, shall I say, came into my life, and it resonated so much. And Jesus was talking about how we are one with God, and that we are sovereign beings, and that there's always a divine connection, and that there's no judgment in light, and that we are all Christed. And when I was hearing these messages and doing the spiritual practice, boy, I felt so at home. So I was on this path already, and I knew about channeling. I'm trying to remember, did I even know about light language? I don't quite recall if I did or not, but I was driving to work. I had like about a 30-minute straight shot on I-84, and all of a sudden I started to speak one word over and 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 over, and my eyes are getting big, and I'm like, hello, 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 hello. Like, I didn't know, I knew what was happening to me, but I knew that I was no longer in control and conscious control of what was coming through my throat. And I was like, oh my God, guess what happened today? And then later that afternoon, it was like a novelty. And I had people to call. Like, I had people that I was already involved with online. A really famous channeler, her name is Pamela Erlin. She's pretty big. She's been on Next Level Soul podcast a couple of times, and I'm still in touch with her now. I reached out to her. I'm like, this is what happened. Other friends in my spiritual community who were channelers, it's like, oh my God, guess what's happening? But yeah, it was quite the novelty in the beginning, and it still is kind of a novelty. I was like, hey, guess what I could do? And I'd be like, lugga, 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 and it would just be complete and utter gibberish. So that's how I became to channel the light language, quite spontaneously. Yeah.
And what's interesting about that too is you're pointing out that you could understand other people's light language. And I've often been told it's hard to teach the light language because, as with English, you have a northern dialect, you have the northeastern dialect, the southern dialect, the southwestern dialect. Well, the same thing exists with the light language. Everybody has their own dialect. And I'm like, in my mind, going, well, if everyone's speaking a different dialect, how do we know when they're talking what actually is being said? Because words mean different things in different dialects, and how it's interesting that it seems like a language that even if you don't know it, you know it.
Right. Well, I do want to clarify, I do not interpret and I do not understand the light language. So I speak different dialects. I agree with you on that. I agree with you 100%. But I don't believe that light language is meant to be understood by our conscious, rational mind. For me, light language is meant to go to our light bodies because it is light in spoken form. So it's meant to inform something that is not in our conscious control. So we are consciousness, but we also have the egoic consciousness. And that egoic consciousness is the consciousness that's like, well, if I don't know what it means, then it doesn't mean anything. Well, that's not true. Okay. And also that ego likes to peg things and say, oh, well, this is this and that is that. So when you're confronted with something that you don't understand, it's a spiritual challenge. It's an egoic challenge, right? So are you willing to just accept and allow it to flow? Or do you feel you need to know exactly what's going on? But I've often described it in certain light languages that I do, because to me, it's many different things. It's like a cleanser. I channel light language before I bring forth a being or a collective or a consciousness. But the way I describe it is, it's as if you have a grandmother that is from some foreign country that you've never visited before. You don't understand what she's saying, but you feel what she's saying. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's also interesting because Christy Campbell has cards that has the light language on it. And
oh, yeah.
She'll show me a card and it's like, I have no knowledge of the light language, but I'll be like, I recognize these symbols. And
absolutely,
it's like my mind starts like, and when I say my mind, I mean my true mind, starts looking at it and it's like, starts shaping it into language. And I'm like, wait, I have to stop myself and be like, I gotta stay focused because she's trying to tell me something and I can't get lost in this. And it's like, oh, but then I want to go back and look at.
Well, I love Christy. She's a beautiful soul. And I love her light language. When I see her light language, I feel it. I draw light language as well. I have books of it and pages of it. It just flows and flows and flows. And it could be scribble or it could be more mechanical looking, I would say. But no, I get what you mean. Like, she's so prolific with it, and I love that about her. So, yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. It resonates with your soul. You look at it and you go, oh, that's familiar. Like, oh, I know that. And there's just this kind of lift that happens within you. At least it does for me, you know?
No, I know. And then there's like this, like, knowing that you're like, I know, I don't know how I know, but I know.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a frustration of, I know, but I can't recall what I know. And it's like, why can't I remember what I know? And it's like you start getting in this mind trap of
Yeah.
going,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just the ego. That's just the little resistance game. And that's all you have to think about it. If you're resisting something, if you're desiring so much, you're actually creating resistance so that knowledge will not come to you because you're generating this frequency of frustration in between it. And so if you breathe through that the next time, just take a deep breath and, oh, I'm getting all worried about it. Let me just relax into it and just let it wash and let it just come to you in peace. You know, you'll break through and you'll feel what it is. I promise you. Yeah. Well, I can't promise you, but I promise you.
I love that because I've had, like, Brian would say to me, don't force memories because people will have memories, people have partial memories, or people
Mm-hmm.
have no memories.
Mm-hmm.
Let yourself take time to figure out which one of the three you are. And I felt a little more relaxed at that, thinking, okay, maybe, I don't need memory. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to get it, but that doesn't discount who I am and what I do. But then hearing it the way you just described it, it's like it's like it kind of hits and resonates a little bit deeper and going,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can't force. And
Yeah.
everybody will say, don't force, but it's like your conscious mind is like, we want to know. So we're going to drive you to want to know, and we're going to drive you to get that answer. And it's kind of like your mind is forcing you, and
Mm-hmm.
you think, I'm following my intuition, and you're saying the exact opposite. If you're being driven in a way that's pushing you backwards, you
Mm-hmm.
need to snap out of it because that's not the right path.
Right. So you have to think about resistance versus flow, which is a really important spiritual principle that not a lot of people reflect on. Um, Resistance is blocking the flow of love. It just is. When you're concerned, and even in yourself, you can feel it. If you're frustrated, if you're like, why isn't this happening? Well, that in itself is throwing up a boundary, is throwing up a barrier, is not allowing for the flow to happen. So, yeah, it's just a matter of just training yourself out of that and just trusting. And truly trusting that everything is going to come to you in the exact moment that you need it. Kind of like that intuition that I had about asking the little lady in white to come and protect him over here, that student. You know, if I sat there and tried to figure it out myself, oh my goodness, I'd probably freak him out. So just breathing and allowing for whatever it is to drop in, because we are all connected. We are all perfectly connected with our higher selves, unless we do something to stop that or to thwart that.
I agree, and
Free will.
I'm aware that we have like less than 5 minutes
Oh,
on the
okay.
hour, so I don't know if you have time to go a little bit longer or you need to go.
I ain't going nowhere but to bed, so I can talk a little bit more if you want to.
Well, and I was thinking back to a question you asked me before we went live, and you had mentioned like, "Oh, do you want me to do a reading?" And and I'm curious what that looks like, and
Mhm.
so I would offer if you feel drawn to. I'm like, I'm curious enough to go, yeah, what is this like, and what is there for me? But I'm also like, my mind's like, don't take advantage. Don't,
Oh,
she asked,
no.
but we don't do this on this show. And so I'm like, kind of like going, okay, I feel
No,
like there's something because we were talking about there's something around, but I don't know.
okay.
I'll leave it up to you.
Well, I just got a shimmy and a kick of my head. So, I mean, spirit is here, um, ready to go. So, would you like me to kind of like do a general energy reading for you right now? Like,
Sure.
what would
I
you
always
like? Or would you like me to bring a message through? What would you like?
Well, we can do the energy, and if there's time and there is a message coming through, maybe both, or
Hmm.
let's do an energy check.
Okay, cool. All right. So, Michael, I'm going to just tap into your energy. We surround ourselves with the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Okay, so I do various things happen to me when I'm doing a reading. That little cough that I just gave, that is an indication that there is dense energy. So I'm just going to tap in right now and see what's happening. My body shakes, I sputter, I'll probably say light language, speak light language because that's a part of it. And my hands will move on their own because my guides come in and do their thing with me as well. All right, so right now we're focusing on your external energy field. I'm feeling a lot of dense energy in your lower back, in the back of you, in your lower back. Really dense energy back there. Do you have back pain? Do you have like lower back pain or anything like that in that area?
I do at times when I lay down. It's like from the day, it's like, ooh, the low back, and then it lets out, and I'm like, okay, thank you.
All right. Usually, when I feel things in the back, it has to do with something that you've carried forward from another incarnation. So it's like something that has to do with like I said, another incarnation. I'm literally feeling like there's something that's really just hanging off of your lower back, almost like something that's dug in and that's really weighing heavily down there. And there's like this anger, not an anger, but there's a very heavy energy there. And like my fist is going like this. So basically, in my readings, what happens is I have to interpret what I'm feeling and what my body is doing and try and make sense of it. Okay. And then we'll work it out. And the cough always represents that there is a dense energy there. Oof, okay. It's slightly gone away, although I'm feeling a contraction in like my lower abdomen right now. Yeah, I'm feeling that there's a lot of issues going on in your root chakra area. Are you in a situation in your own life where you're very, very unsatisfied? It's either about a job, it's either about a living situation. Is there anything going on there?
Oh.
Because
So
I'm still doing
I
this.
can take that, yes, it's not job related or living situation, but it is, well, I'll just say it. It's the fact that it's like I'm single and no prospects.
Okay. And so now what they're doing is they're doing this kind of chopping motion. And this chopping motion is kind of like cutting at the weeds, cutting at the limiting beliefs. Okay. So basically what I'm feeling is that you're being stagnated literally because of limiting beliefs that are just growing up and trapping you and trapping your legs, like they're literally pulling you down. So really work on that. Work on those limiting beliefs, okay? There are 8 billion souls on this planet. The fact that you believe that there are no prospects is quite honestly ridiculous. Okay. Now, having said that, how are you going to shift this state of being? So you generate your existence. You generate it all. And I'm going through kind of a similar thing in that I want to generate a relationship. I want to generate somebody who I can be with. You know, I'm a miserable single. I really don't like being single, but if I am, I'm going to be happy about it. Okay. So there's no point in lamenting what you don't have if you're not enjoying your life for what it is. So at this point right now, look at your limiting beliefs. What stories are you telling yourself? And write them down. Write these stories down, all these limiting beliefs, and then do a little exercise. How do I really want to feel? Okay, let me write that down. How do I really want to feel about this? Okay, let me write that down. Okay. We are in a density of action. We need to do things in order to change. Okay. It always involves action. So this is your challenge. Are you willing to do action to shift and change?
I am.
Okay. And so now that you are, and you said the magic words, I am, those are the connection words that bring manifestation into our reality. So that is the good news. The good news is that you can totally change where you are. And so let me just tap into the root chakra. I'm feeling a lot of release. I don't feel the heaviness anymore. Oh, dude. So I think I need to channel. Is that okay?
That's totally fine.
Okay, great. Because they're shaking me up. Well, we are Ra. We are the Ra Collective. We are this dear beings, guides, and teachers. And we are here because we love to interact more and more and more and more intimately with humanity at this time. We are beings of love. We are beings who care. We are, you can call us extraterrestrial, you can call us interdimensional, you can call us avian beings if you wish. And our dear one has traveled to the realms where we were incarnate on this planet. And that is the land of Kemet that you know as modern day Egypt. And so, dear ones, we are here for you. We have been here for you. All of you have guides. All of you have higher beings that are with you just out of your apparent 5-sense reality, that are truly here to assist you, to elevate you, to bring you to the next level of your own personal consciousness evolution. Dear beautiful souls, no matter who you think you are much greater. You are more vast, more divine than you have been led to believe. And truly, truly, you will not realize how truly special and beautiful you are until you shed this very dense meat suit, and we do not like that term, but we will say it anyway. And finally, be in the other realms. But you are all here for a very beautiful purpose. You, those of you that are here listening to these words, you are the foundation blocks for the new human. The human who is expanded. The human, and you love to use this term, who is awakened, who is aware. Dear beautiful ones, love yourselves. Please, learn to love who you are. Learn to accept who you are, and in that acceptance, you can bring change. Because there has to become a point where you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, you know, if I'm unhappy, I need to change, and I'm going to. You are in a realm of contrast. You are in a realm that can give you the lowest of the lows along with the highest of the highs. And the reason why is so that you can discern and so that you can know what you like and what you don't like. Oftentimes, humans are caught into what they don't like. And it becomes this kind of perpetuating cycle. And we encourage you all, please don't stop there. Please don't stop there. That is merely showing you what you don't need. It is not a permanent state of being, because you, dear ones, are creator beings. And you can create. You can create situations of happiness and joy. You can go to these beautiful conferences where you meet like-minded individuals, where you're able to share in your passions, where you're able to feel that you're not alone. And the only way that you're able to do that is through the action, is through the commitment, is through honoring that part of your soul that says, I've got to be there. And you go, come hell or high water, as they say. Dear beautiful ones, you are truly in control. Not only are you in control of, let us say, the greater frequency and vibration of humanity, you are truly ultimately in control of you. And it is from that knowledge of contrast, knowing where you want to be and also knowing where you don't want to be, and gearing your life towards where you want to be. And if you are in a situation that is unhappy, make the best of it. Do not be a doormat. Do not put up with abuse. That's not what we're saying. But what we're saying is, learn to love yourself. Fill your own cup, because it is only when you fill your own cup that the true match for your lives will come to you. Anyone else is merely trying to fill the hole with something that is not their own. That is not true love. That is not sustainable relationship. True sustainable relationship is when you are truly sustained within yourself. So this is where we will leave it, dear ones. Love yourselves. Just do that. Honor your own feelings. It's okay if you piss people off, as you say. It doesn't matter. What matters truly is that you stand in love and in peace. And you say to yourself, you know, I really don't want to go there with this person. How many times do you make excuses? Oh, well, I don't want to make them feel bad. Well, I already said I would go. No, because you will endure a situation that will make you feel bad for now until forever. So don't do that to yourself. Honor the intuition that you hold within you. This is also a part of self-love. You can get out of situations you don't want to be in and then go do something that you want to do. So this will open up another can of worms and another long explanation. And so we will draw back and leave it as where we had intended. Love yourselves. Honor yourselves. We love you.
Thank you.
Oh, gosh. Thank you.
Oh man, I got caught up in the Egypt, and I was like, "Ooh!" A question popped in my head. I was like, "Oh!" And then I was like, when they said pull back, I was like, "Oh, I'll ask it another time."
Okay. Well, what's the question?
Well, the question is, when I was in Egypt in the Great Pyramid, I have total recall of being in the King's Chamber. A friend told me how we went into the Queen's Chamber. However, my memory says we went to the King's Chamber and left. I have no memory of being in the Queen's Chamber. And so my question was going to be is, why don't I have that memory, and will it ever return?
Mm-hmm. I got kind of like a little download. I think what happened is that you slipped into another dimensional reality where you never really went into the Queen's Chamber. You may have, like, in this reality, but your consciousness went somewhere else. And so I think that's pretty cool.
And actually, I can tell you that is 100% accurate, because when I was in the King's Chamber, I was in the sarcophagus container and went to another place that was like this misty kind of island area, I guess, or forested area, and was talking with the gods. But I remember asking a question and then pulled back, and that's where my memory is like, yeah, I had a conversation with the gods, and then we left. And so I was left going, was I processing, and that's why I missed being in that room and didn't have no memory of the room?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I blissed out when I lie down in the sarcophagus. I had a blissed kind of like, I just kind of like felt my body lift up, and it was really incredible. It was an incredible experience. Oh, and by the way, I will be leading my own tour to Egypt in January of 2027.
Oh, wow.
So I'd like to give a plug to that. Yeah, I was just in Egypt in March of this year, and the tour guide loved my energy, and he's like, I would love to work with you. And I was like, cool, let's arrange a tour. So if you guys want to go to Egypt with me, I will be doing, meditations, group regressions, individual past life regressions, chakra clearings. We're going to the chakras of ancient Egypt. We're going to start all the way down in Aswan with the Temple of Isis as the crown, and work our way down the Nile to the root chakra, which is the Great Pyramid. And we're going to all different spots in between, many and more than just the chakras. So it's very exciting. 2 weeks.
That is really cool, because a friend is in Egypt right now, and it's like he was
Yeah,
posting
yeah.
photos. And I was like, I remember that spot. I remember that spot. And started like remembering all the different temples. And when he went to Filet, we were like, oh man. My friend and I were both commenting. We're like, oh man, we got up super early to do dawn, the rising of the sun.
Yeah, we did too.
Sitting there, and it's like that moment. It's like, you hear people talk about magic around you, but when you see the sunrise in Egypt, sitting on a temple wall, it's like magic just takes on a whole new meaning, and it's like an experience unlike anything. It's like, you sit there and go, well, I've seen lots of sunrises. I'm like, there is something really uniquely magical about these.
Yeah. So come with me. Come with me. Make it happen.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into that and starting to create income so I can do more of these travels and go back to Egypt. Because the way I felt and described Egypt for anyone who hasn't been, it is literally a place where you can feel the footsteps of the ancestors and the pharaohs and walking.
And Atlantis.
Yeah.
And Atlantis. I mean, I felt Atlantis just everywhere there. I really did. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm wearing my Horus earrings.
Very cool.
Today. Yeah, I got those from Egypt in my little Egyptian beaded dress. So yeah.
I mean, it literally is a land where you're walking in the past, in the present. It's like time has never changed.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's spectacular, and I can't wait to go back. So, but come on tour with me.
Yes, and
I'd love to take you.
Where else can people find you and what all you offer? Like, is there a website or anything you'd like to promote?
Oh, yes, for sure. You can find everything about me on my website, AMM, standing for Anne Marie Morales, hypnotherapy.com, AMMhypnotherapy.com. And there's a tab there specifically for the Egypt 2027 tour in January of 2027. And there's testimonials, there's videos, and all of my offerings, my energy work, as well as my hypnotherapy and my Starseed special. So that's very special. That's a great thing. My YouTube channel also has my channelings, it has excerpts from my Starseed specials and full Starseed specials on there as well. So I work with a lot of people in the quantum realm, and it's beautiful. It's a lot of fun.
And I'm sure I have all your links in the description, but for those that are listening, what is the YouTube channel?
It is Anne Marie Morales, Hypnotherapy and Intuitive Arts. That's where you can find me.
Very cool. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing all of this with us. I'm honestly feeling like, this is like almost like a tip of an iceberg type scenario where there's feels like there's so much more to talk about, but
yeah,
we'll have to say that for another episode.
Well, I appreciate you letting me talk about my early life and paranormal days. And yeah, that was just scratching the surface. There's a lot more there, but I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on. And it was wonderful to meet you in person.
Yes, it was wonderful to actually get down and sit and talk with you, because I know there was a couple of times where we were trying and I got called away because I had to go introduce someone or doing something. And so it was amazing that the universe worked itself out and we actually got to sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah, yeah. It was great. Thank you.
Yeah, and the day of being bobbing in the Gulf was fun too.
Yeah, it was.
All right, well, I will let you go so that you can get some rest. And thank you to everybody for tuning in, and thank you to everyone in the chat room. And so I'm going to say good night. God bless everyone. And no matter what, remember there's always hope. So never feel like you have to give up because there's always hope around the corner.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Good night.
Good night.